Now you know the answer.
98.1, love music, love life. It's a hump of the week, Wednesday morning, 31 minutes past 7 a.m. It is the 21st day of May, 2025. Yours truly, right here with you, Ayokunmi on the Smooth Breakfast. Welcome along to a world where we get to take a look at the papers, the stories making the headlines, and what has us talking in Nigeria. This is Freshly Pressed. It is an interactive session, as always. That means that we not only take a look at the stories and get analysis, you also get to join us and share your thoughts on the stories we'll be talking about. Your perspectives, they mean the world to us. And you can do that by sharing those messages on WhatsApp. The number is 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 981 is the WhatsApp number. We're also streaming on YouTube. You can catch us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos on YouTube, or if you're using your browser, you can just type in youtube.com/smooth 981 FM Lagos. And that way you can join us. You can also share your thoughts in the chat box right there. All right, joining me this morning to take a look at the stories and give their analysis as well. Lakunle, Yusuf, and Devoe Okorie are with me this morning. Good morning to you, Lakunle and Devoe.
Morning, Devoe. Good morning, world. The rains are here again for everything that we need to do. Let's be careful out there. Don't let's step into the waters when it floods. Don't drive on the road when it floods. And if your house gets flooded, please try to stay out, stay safe, everyone, while the government tries to sort us out of the issue.
Yes, indeed. Devoe, good morning to you.
Good morning, world. Lagos, it's a new day and a new week. A coup, corruption, tipo.
I was actually expecting something along those lines. And thank you very much, Devoe, for, should I say, getting us into where we're heading to this morning. Well, our first port of stoppage this morning, we're heading into the Vanguard. And it talks about the National Assembly budget disagreements over padding and no padding. But anyways, the National Assembly and a civic organization BudgIT yesterday disagreed over insertion of 11,122 projects worth about 6.93 trillion naira into the 2025 budget. Now, budgets, well, there's budget and budget, same pronunciation. Budgets had alleged that the lawmakers padded the appropriation bill with the projects it described as not in alignment with the medium-term and national development plan 2021 to 2025 and other national priorities as well. But both arms of the National Assembly, the Senate, and the House of Reps reacted swiftly yesterday, dismissing allegations that they actually padded the budget. They reaffirmed their powers to amend said budget as enshrined by the 1999 Constitution as amended. Devoe, this is not the first time we'll be singing this song or doing this song and dance. It's another episode in the long series of allegations of budget padding. You can go as far back as the year 2000 during the Obasanjo era. Remember the Ningi incident very recently where he was suspended and so on and so forth. Are we ever going to get out of this sort of issues that we face on a regular level?
What I have to say here is that honestly, it's just that we don't have time. Could have spent a whole day on this article because most times people shout about the lack of performance from governments, both at the federal and the state level. They shout about, oh, baboon they chop, monkey they walk. And sometimes people actually don't know how this happens or what they're referring to or why people who get into politics are ready to kill themselves in there. This story, luckily, was highlighted because BudgIT is a non-governmental organization that is sponsored by foreign organizations, okay? And honestly, if it was a Nigerian organization, I'm not sure they would have had the moral high ground to be able to call out government. And in this instance, what they've said, and unfortunately, this is why there's no time, a lot of people don't appreciate numbers, or when they start calling all these numbers, it just gets everything confusing. So I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. Budget has said they inserted over 11,000 projects worth let's just say 7 trillion into the 2025 budget. You know, the budget was initially at 47. I think they increased it up to about 54.
Yeah.
What do you call it? 54 trillion naira.
Billionaire.
Now, that was because they said they discovered some places where the government was going to make some revenue that was not captured. Now, usually this issue about budget procedure, unfortunately, this took um, hike during the Obasanjo years when Obasanjo wanted to pass a budget and he needed the National Assembly. Now, remember, the National Assembly in a democracy is meant to be the checks and balances on the executive. But Obasanjo compromised the National Assembly with those bags of naira. And I'm saying this because that was when this evil started. And unfortunately, you would think some people defend Obasanjo and say, how much did he give them compared to what they're doing today? That's true. What they're doing today is like what Obasanjo did is like a drop in the ocean compared to what is going on now. People should understand this, but that was when the devil entered the politics. And at that point in time, this padding of an issue, padding by the word just means put small on top. Do you understand? Cushion it. If you want to sit properly, cushion it. But in this instance, I don't think we have to find a new word because this is no longer padding. When you're talking about 7 trillion naira, how much is our government revenue? How much is our debt? Now, what the budget has highlighted is that these projects, obviously, how they get the money out is because obviously National Assembly members cannot operate executively. Okay, no money goes directly to them. So
Correct.
this money is passed to the executive through ministries, departments, and agencies who submit their own budgets. And this is how the higi haga takes place. And this is where you hear about, oh, juicy ministries or juicy appointments, where you're able to control large funds. So what happens? They create these budgets, okay, in the name of projects, okay, constituency projects, which are, remember, why did Obasanjo do it then? Which almost every president after him kept the tradition going, from Jonathan to Yar'Adua to Buhari to now the Tinubu administration. What happens is that this is how the National Assembly becomes rubber stamp, and that was the deal back then. That if you sign my own bills, me too, I will allow your own to pass. Hello, can I repeat that? If you sign my own executive bills, I will allow your own to pass. What is their own? These instructions that BudgIT has said that about 3,500 projects worth about 650 billion assigned to federal constituencies. Another, I mean, they're just you have projects like streetlights, you have projects like boreholes, you have projects like empowerment of traditional rulers.
ICT
You
projects and so on.
Yes, they're all. They gave examples. Some of them are tucked into the Ministry of Agriculture. Some of them are tucked into some agencies, the Ministry of Science, over bloating the budget figure for those agencies. Some are even tucked to the Nigerian Building and Road Research Institute, and the Federal Cooperative College, Oji River. I think that's in Enugu. Basically, what they're saying is that a lot of the budgets, that is, like, there was a training institution, that's the Federal Cooperative College in Oji River, that's in Enugu, that was saddled with 3 billion for utility vehicles to support farmers and distribution agents. Then 1.5 billion for the rural electrification in River State. On the surface, these look like projects that are actually meant to do something positive for the Nigerian people, okay? Because the whole idea is that the executive are meant to allocate funds to drive the implementation of,
Right,
of,
right.
of the plan, right? However, what is happening is that these projects never get done, okay? And the deal between the superintending House of Rep member or senator who ensures that his own budget figure is passed works with the MDA that will facilitate the movement of this money, okay? That's how, at the end of the day, everybody gets settled. And I must say something here. It's pure corruption. When BudgIT highlighted this, already the National Assembly has responded swiftly to say that no, there's no corruption taking place. It's within their powers to change the budget as they deem best for the
Okay, Devoe.
country. finally, they've highlighted for the ICPC and the EFCC, but mom is the word from all of them. The presidency, mom. So Nigerian citizens, unfortunately, there's no time to keep talking on this, but the point is, this is how high-level organized crime takes place. And because of this reason, this is why there's no point for political parties. That's why literally every party is moving to one side, simply because let us come and eat. There's no point staying on the other side and staying hungry. Let us all cross into one chamber and all eat. Nigerians, the homework and the hard work is yours to do.
Yes, indeed. The homework and the hard work definitely is ours to do. It's unfortunate that we have these conversations on such a regular basis. Almost every other year, we talk about this same thing, and it keeps happening over and over again. Like you said, we can spend the whole day talking about this, but unfortunately, we need to move on and talk about a couple of other issues this morning. Lakunle, let's walk into the Vanguard. This one, quite a sad story that's coming out here, and this is coming from Ibadan. Now, a WAEC candidate on Tuesday morning was fatally struck by a stray bullet fired by a police officer during a high-speed chase. Now, the incident occurred in Igbagi Market Road in Ibadan as the officer pursued a fleeing vehicle suspected to be occupied by Yahoo boys. And unfortunately, one of the bullets missed its target and hit the student who was riding on the motorcycle with his twin brother. He was heading to take his SSC WAEC exams at that time. He was taken to the hospital, welfare hospital, but was declared dead on arrival. Very, very unfortunate incident. Now, our thoughts are with the family of that young one. Lakunle, this is another incident, another one of the many incidents that we have where the police is concerned. This cannot continue to happen, really and truly.
Except that there are two separate incidences involving the police in Ibadan that I saw on the social media yesterday was that in a car with his father and the stray bullet hit him. There was a video shared by one Oyo State government handle called Oyo Affairs that the driver of the car was doing one way and the state traffic whatever wanted to apprehend him and he tried to dodge them and the police attacked to them, shot at the car. So except there are two different incidences, but the point is that it still goes a long way to say how we do policing and arrests and all whatnot that's attached to it. For the life of me, this is 2025. What is a policeman doing on the street with an assault rifle? We are not in a state of, we are not fighting a war within our metropolis. Why our police? Why is it that if they are to carry weapons, why an assault rifle, for crying out loud? Why not something smaller, something to decapitate something to maybe demobilize the suspect or something. And then, whichever way it is, the number plates, the registration number of the car is visible. Just take the registration number. There's an address which that number of the owner of the car is registered to. There's a phone number. You can find this person at a later date. The police themselves will say that they would rather let a guilty man get away free than kill an innocent person, right? But you don't see this with these people. You see policemen ride on Okada, move around on the street in various states of improper dressing, carrying assault rifles. These rifles are as old as Nigeria in some instances. You get what I mean? And these guys are not even in control of what they do. Some of them have already taken some form of beverage or the other in the morning. You see beside them, you can smell the beverage they've taken on their breath. And then you give an assault rifle to that kind of a person. And then if the person does not have the sense to that, okay, I'm in a crowded place, why shoot in the first instance? And now, according to this report, the police has not made any statement. The government has not made any statement. And here we are, a boy is dead. It's thrown a family into mourning. The boy that had supposedly has a future ahead of him, he was writing an exam, and now here we are. He left home that morning to go and write the exam, and now it is dead body that has been returned to his parents. And we need to start making example of people who do this. That we say every day that our policing, our personnel in police, we need a total revamp of the system. How do we employ them? How do we recruit? How do we train? What do we tell them to do on the road? These things, we must re-emphasize this. And I hope that the Oyo State government, the governor, the police commissioner of your state don't just sweep this under the carpet. I know what we would do is probably the hierarchy of the police and the state government will go and visit the families of the child and offer money. Money isn't going to replace this boy's life. Even if it's going to, a damage has been done and it can never be the same again. And this isn't the last time. And I hope and I pray that it does not get to a point that as a police officer, I will be afraid to wear my uniform walking on the streets of any town in Nigeria. Because we are slowly and gradually getting there. One day, the camel's back is going to break because of this kind of stories we are hearing. And I pray that we don't fall into chaos if the police don't get their act together and stop this kind of wanton and careless acts by their men.
Yes, Lakunle, yes, indeed. It's such a sad situation we find ourselves in. The scary part is it's not the first time we hear about these sort of incidents where a stray bullet from an officer shooting indiscriminately hits, a bystander, as it were. This young boy's life has been cut short. So sad that we have to be talking about these issues this morning. But really, actually, Lakunle, I mean, before I let you go on this one, very quickly, what exactly is a possible solution to these issues? I mean, minus the fact that, okay, they carry these assault rifles. Let's even imagine they had handheld guns, smaller weapons. They could still have shot indiscriminately regardless. What would be a sensible way to avoid something like this happening again, really quickly?
A police academy documentary by Channels TV a few years ago condition that we train our policemen. We have dehumanized them. You have taken their dignity away from them. From that video, that is my summary. We've taken their human dignity away from them. You now wear them uniform and place a gun in their hands. What do you expect of those kind of people? What do you expect of them to do when they get on the road?
All right.
Society. So that is a basic place where we first need to go and examine the foundation. How are we training them? What indoctrination? How much dignity are we giving to to somebody who is a policeman or woman? Once we're able to define that, then we would have less English to speak about these things.
All right, let me take a message here before I come back to the stories with Devoe here. This is Ian. Ian says that Ibadan incident is just a really sad one. I've been asking the question that Lakunle is now asking: why do police officers carry AK-47s around when they're civilians and no violence or violent attacks? And why should a vehicle driving one way when you can simply note the license plate number of the car and take decisive actions later? It really is just a sad situation. Really, really sad. Yes, indeed, it is. All right, Devoe, let's step into the punch right now. Let's talk about the MPC, and that's the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria. They've retained the monetary policy rate at 27.5%, marking its second consecutive hold in 2025. Now, this decision was announced by the CBN Governor, Olayemi Cardoso, during a press briefing on Tuesday in Abuja, following the conclusion of the MPC's 300th meeting. Now, this is the second pause in rates after 6 consecutive hikes recorded in 2024. In fact, it got to a point where discussions among business analysts were with the rate at which the rates were hiked consecutively that it would happen again and again. But now we've had 2 back-to-back holding of the rates. What does this mean, Devoe?
Okay, once again, we're discussing macroeconomics, which may not have relevance to the daily lives of most Nigerians, but we'll try and simplify it, okay? This is the Monetary Authority having their usual quarterly meeting, okay? Like you said, those hikes were done because obviously Naira was being devalued, okay? We had a debt scenario. And to be able to attract funds into the country, you must have a rate that is above the inflation rates. It's part of the exercises done to tame inflation. Now, what was causing the inflation? And remember, first of all, there's crude oil theft, which was reducing the amount of revenue Nigeria was making on crude. We also had insecurity, which was making products and goods scarce. We also had global issues that were affecting Nigeria. Also, Nigeria hasn't really been making so much non-oil exports. So
Right.
definitely inflation has been on the high. Then there are also two twin policies of government, the removal of subsidies on petrol and on FX. Now, what this has done is obviously it's devalued on Naira, but what CBN has also done across time was to try and stabilize this. So it's not so much of it, instead of it going up and down, they've been able to create something like a new normal. So exchange is at 1.6, okay? Fuel price due to the Dangote refinery, and then some of the marketers is hovering between 800 to about 1,000 naira. So we give them kudos for creating some level of stability. But you see, the real issue here is why they've held it is because to keep attracting investment into the country, the rates must be high enough to pull in both local and foreign investments. Okay.
Right.
However, what is important is growth. Nigeria, the if you check the GDP, they say, oh, it's a percentage a little higher than it was last year. All we're simply saying is a toothpick and a needle, which one is sharper? Mm? We're still talking about small things. We should be looking at proper growth. And when we talk about economic growth, that's really not the responsibility of the CBN. That goes straight to the responsibility of the finance ministry. So most times, like I said, I only want to be hearing CBN only when maybe they do this at NPR meeting. But let's not really focus on it because the real focus, where we expect government to play its role to drive the economy, is sitting on Wale Edun, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. What actions do we want them to take? How are they going to reduce the size of business at the federal and the state level? Like all these fictitious projects that we just heard of in the earlier stories. Which federal government businesses, because the government should not be in business, are they going to sell down or maybe create some level of commercialization like the NNPC, the NTA, all these government businesses? How is the government at the federal and the state level going to create public-private partnerships to be able to bring in private capital so that, like in the solid mineral sector or in the agri sector, we can optimize all the minerals that are in Nigeria, in the various states, the food that we don't have. This is how you create growth. When you create that growth locally and also external to earn FX, what happens is that you will now start seeing the naira appreciate in its value. Are you getting what I'm saying? Um, and in that instance, you will see more investments being drawn to the country because investors will believe that Nigeria is a good place to put their money in. So
Mm.
all I'm saying is I want to hear less of the CBN and more from the Ministry of Finance and Coordinating Economy.
All right. Thank you for sharing those thoughts, Devoe, and giving us some perspective on that particular matter there. On WhatsApp, Ajay Oloniluwa in Magodri Sherry says it's unconstitutional for the National Assembly to insert their own appropriations into the budget already prepared by the executive in the guise of constituency projects. The executive is to prepare the budget while the National Assembly is to scrutinize and pass it into law. Kali says, he's in Okorie. Kali says, regarding the police shooting, I think it's important to note that the penalty for a traffic violation is not death. There is no excuse for what happened. The police need to do better. They need to be better. My sincerest condolences to the family, and I hope the erring officer is brought to task. Good morning to you, Kali. Thank you for sending your message in. Babatunde Alao says, on the Ibadan incident, take police out of traffic management and let them face security squarely. They have a lot to do with bandits, kidnappers, Boko Haram, armed robbery, and so on and so forth, rocking the nation. Traffic managers are in force. Government should take the police off for sanity's sake. All right, thank you for sharing that message there. All right, back into the nitty-gritty of the conversation. Let's talk about Naira for crude. Lakunle, I'm bringing this one to your doorstep real quick here. It's in the Punch newspaper. The Dangote Petroleum Refinery has said that the Naira for crude deal allowed it to reduce the price of petrol, which translates to reduce costs at the pumps. This is even as the company affirmed that the prices of petrol will remain affordable and stable as well. The company said this on Monday. Said on Monday that despite the fluctuations in global crude oil prices, it has consistently reduced the price of petrol. Lakunle, walk us through this one real quickly.
Maybe I'll do this in less than 2 minutes. So this is probably a win for those of us non-economists who think we should do about our pricing. Remember that, like forever, all my life, I've always understood there is a statutory reservation of 400,000 barrels per day for local consumption. The argument our economists and international oil analysts will say is that oil is an international business, and so it must be sold in international currency. Fair enough. But if there's also a law in Nigeria that says of every whatever that I make, I'm reserving 400,000 barrels. Is it 400,000 or 100,000 barrels? I think it's 400,000 barrels per day for local consumption. Yeah. Then the owner of that reserve can have a right to say, this is how I want to sell it or who I want to sell it to inside Nigeria. And this is where our local refineries have been set up. They called it one funny name that does not come into my head immediately now. So if our local refineries can have access to those 400 and government is selling to them in Naira as we see, then the pull and effect of the international up and down prices of crude would not necessarily affect the prices at home, because of course, and then the long-term effect of that is also that it also reduces the strain and stress on the demand for forex in Nigeria, because you will note that at various times the central bank and the Ministry of Finance had always said that much of the demand for dollar is for the purpose of importing petroleum products. But if we're able to satisfy our local needs consumption from the reserved crude for Nigeria that is now being sold in Naira, then I think that also helps us. And again, for those of us who are non-economists, who are not oil and gas men, who just think native wisdom, I think this is a win for us. And I hope that Dangote and the other modular refineries can just get things going, and it will get a true reflection of the cost of production of petroleum products in Nigeria.
Thank you, Lakunle. You got there in the end, modular refineries. I was also trying to figure out where exactly you were going. As you said, modular refinery, it came to my mind as well. Thank you for getting there at the end of the day. All right, let me take your messages real quick. Rexy in Surulere says, Devoe, your politicians in whatever parties, they are, in quotes, chop. I'm guessing. Okay, well, let me further the message. They don't need to move anywhere to chop. The institution in the Southeast you just cited in is in an APGA or LP constituency. Rexy, help me to help myself on this your message. We keep gaslighting that there are some special incorruptible politicians in parties other than the ruling party. It's not true. Your favorite politicians have been part of that perfidy from 1999. Well, Devoe did reference the Obasanjo time, so that's as far back as when he was in office. But thank you for your message. Fabian Inekwe says, may the soul of the poor lad rest in peace. Amen. The policeman who shot the boy should be dismissed and then prosecuted, and the senior officer on patrol with him demoted. This occurs because policemen are poorly trained, not motivated, and ineffectively supervised. We have waited and still wait for the recall of all policemen attached to people with money and connections. We cannot continue to lament and do nothing else. We hear all these declarations, but nothing ever seems to happen. Well, we'll take up, we'll recall all the policemen attached to VIPs and so on. We're still waiting. Tony Marine Beat says, you're on point. The nasty child was born during the Obasanjo era and has been nurtured by the APC into a monster. It's now party government where the National Assembly and the executive sit around and negotiate the fortunes of the citizens. That policeman had no reason to shoot in situations like this. When a policeman sees an opportunity like this, they feel like hunters that must not let an animal escape. They lose their senses. It's all about how deep our society has been plunged into corruption due to bad governance. Joseph Minier says, congratulations to the Nigerian police force. Once again, another sorrow to a family. Luckily, I owe you one glass of wine. You have really said my mind. From the clips, I could see the registration number of the one-way violator. How more are those who are physically there? It's just the shenanigans and impunities in the society because the police agenda goes beyond the offense, but the exchange of cash as well. Chika says, the word is modular refinery. Thank you, Chika. Luckily, got there in the end, but thank you for weighing in. Tamilola in Lagos Island says, to Lakunle, the police action to shoot on the traffic stop was wrong. Also, the father put his kids in a dangerous situation by fleeing. Yes, we know it was really wrong.
Don't let us even, Ayo, I'm sorry for interjecting. I think that is very, very unfair to say. How do you mean you put your child in? A child is going to school, will go to school somehow, either by walking on Okada or in his father's car. How has he put his child in a dangerous situation?
He's talking about the fact that the car was driving against traffic. Is what he was talking about.
It was on an Okada. The other one said, that's why I said, except there were two different incidences that involved killing of a child. This report we're referring to says they were on Okada.
All right, let me take one more message here. This is Ade in Lagos. Ade says, this rubber stamp Senate is the worst in history. They only think about their money and luxurious lifestyle and their eye service and hypocrisy for this government. You haven't passed electoral reforms. You haven't passed bills of execution of any officials in power. They didn't pass state police bill, and they didn't remove the president for this lack of capacity. Is it that straightforward? Ade, long message, but I get the gist of what you're talking about. Thank you very much. We need to call it a morning on the show here. Thank you very, very much for your messages, and thank you, Lakunle and Devoe, for taking the time out to join me on Freshly Pressed. As always a pleasure.
And I'm sorry for that outburst because I'm feeling for that family that has just lost a child, probably a 16 or 15-year-old child, and we can never give any excuse for what has happened. There is no excuse to tolerate that what has happened. I mean, so weak.
Thank you so much, Lakunle. No excuses. We need to do better and be better as well. And thank you once again for keeping it tuned to Smooth 98.1. Do not go anywhere for the lovers of sports. The locker room comes up at 8:15. It's going to be an amazing one, as it always is.